So let me ask you, do I look relaxed to you? I've been on sabbatical since the 1st of August, although I've been working relatively hard. As is often the case, when you're doing your regular work, certainly the regular work of an academic, you end up getting so far behind with some of the projects and promises that you've made to people. So the first thing that I had to attend to was to finalize my inaugural lecture, and that took a lot of energy and time, as those videos which I shared expressed. And please do go and have a look. The full lecture is on my YouTube channel. It was a really, really special event, and I'm so grateful to my colleagues and to friends and family for making it such a wonderful event. But it took a lot of energy and time to get that completed and done and ready for publication. Yeah, and then since that, I've been working on a number of deadlines, some of which have been overdue. I had a chapter for a new book on John Wesley and Wesleyan theology called The Wesleyan Mind, which I wrote on John Wesley and science and technology. I had an article on resilient religion in honor of my doctor father, Professor Chris Hermans from Radboud University in Nijmegen, which I had to write on the decolonization of discourses of resilient religion. What else did I have to do? I had a chapter, which was due for a special edition of a journal on interreligious encounter. I spoke last year, it was earlier this year in March, at a conference at the Stellenbosch Institute for Advanced Studies, where my senior colleague, Professor Wolfram Weiser, was on a fellowship looking at the limits of interreligious dialogue and encounter. And again, I wrote on a sort of an internal dialogue within Christian thinking, mainly Methodist, Southern African Methodist Christianity, looking at the ways in which Southern African Methodists commute between African indigenous religion and colonially enforced or informed Christianities in South Africa. I'm sure I'm missing something. I had to present another chapter as well. Oh yes, of course, I spoke at the IRTG conference. That was last week. You can hear I've still got a little bit of a cold. I think I picked up some flu there from some of the folks. That was between Germany and colleagues from the University of KwaZulu-Natal, the University of the Western Cape, and ourselves at Stellenbosch University. And this particular project is looking at transformative religion. And there again, I spoke about the need to decolonize and Africanize discourses around public theology. And then I had two other articles published, one in The Conversation, which dealt with the Marikana Massacare and the need for us to think about the kind of ethics, particularly a virtue ethic, that can contribute towards decency as a quality of justice. What does it mean to live in a society of decency? And I spoke about this on this channel as well. But simply the point that the Marikana miners were advocating not only for a living wage, which is the phrase that's often used in labor relations in South Africa. I mean, think about how brutal it is that we live in a world where we would settle for mere survival, just living as an acceptable standard. Of course, those miners were looking for decency. They wanted to be able to undo the injustices of colonialism and apartheid, to be reconciled with their families, to undo migrant labor, to provide for the education and healthcare and needs of their families. So I had an article published on that. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. And then something on this whole principle of decency, because we know that certainly the concept of decency has been used in some religious and political traditions to silence what doesn't meet the sort of norm of a culture or a history or a context. And we know certainly in queer theologies and in feminist theologies, where there's often been a need for a form of indecency, an indecent theology to call into question the ways in which persons are silent. So I was looking at specifically the way in which Margalit Avishai's notion of decency, a society in which the institutions of the society do not humiliate its citizens, how that kind of decency could form things. So yeah, I've been working quite a bit on that. What lies ahead? Well, at the end of this week, today is what is today? The 12th of September. The end of this week, I travel to the United Kingdom, to Cambridge, where I will be at Wesley House, at Wesley House in Cambridge, where I'm a research fellow, and they will be working on some research and doctoral supervision. And then I'm back for a couple of days, and then I go to Brazil, to the Pontifical University of Curitiba, where I'll be attending the Global Network for Public Theology gathering. This is a wonderful, wonderful gathering. I used to be the chairman of the Global Network for Public Theology, and there's so many friends and colleagues from all over the continent of Africa, from Latin America, from North America, from Europe and Asia, and I'll be speaking there. And there I'm addressing the concept of banning the flag in our churches. So what it means to have a kind of Christian theology that's not captured by the limits of nationalism, a sort of understanding of the fact that Christianity is a transnational religion. And yeah, actually, by the way, I forgot about that. I also had an article published in The Conversation on that very topic, which I'll put a link to in the show notes, on the need to balance religious freedom and the authority of the state in relation to accountable and responsible religion for the common good, for the sake of democracy. And then I'm back from Curitiba, and a couple of days later I head to Bamberg in Germany, where I'm a guest professor, and there I'm going to be working on a project on religion and populism, and particularly the ways in which populist political rhetoric amongst religious communities shaped the othering of persons during COVID-19. So of course in Germany it has to do very much with migration and with religious traditions that are not the center or the norm of German religious society. But here in South Africa it had to do a little bit more. Also, of course, migration played a role, but xenophobia, and of course also the kind of rhetoric that we've seen from American evangelicalism that has infiltrated some forms of African Christianity. While I'm there, I'll be in Heidelberg, the University of Heidelberg, where I'm speaking again on religion, migration, and populism. And there, the title of the conference is The Limits of Neighborly Love. And there I'll be speaking on the ways in which, in South Africa particularly, populist political rhetoric has excluded the kinds of care that we were offered as South Africans during apartheid from being offered to our neighbors. I'll speak about Operation Dudula, this very problematic form of xenophobia and Afro-pessimism that's operating in South Africa. And of course, also the way in which certain of the governing party, the African National Congress's rhetoric has othered persons from elsewhere on the continent. Yeah, then after that, in early November, I move across to Berlin, to the Humboldt University of Berlin, where I've been before. You'll see that on this channel. And there I'm working with my colleague and friend, Professor Torsten Meyreis, again on continuing our project on nationalism, populism, and religion at the Berlin Institute for Public Theology. Yeah, while I'm there, I'll travel home for my wife's PhD graduation. She receives her PhD here in Stellenbosch on the 9th of December, and my daughter, Courtney, gets her honours degree. It's a first graduate degree in South Africa in political science on the Monday, and Megan her PhD on the Friday. So I had a banked flight from 2020. I couldn't go to the American Academy of Religion. I think that was supposed to be in Boston. So I used that bank flight to travel home. And then back to Germany. I'll also travel from there, hopefully to see my friends Zorro Dube and Retief Miller in Stavanger in Norway. They've just moved there, and if I can get a day or two to visit them, I'll do that. And I'll also be visiting, hopefully, my friend Professor Scott Spurlock in Glasgow, with whom we have an institutional partnership, a relationship between ourselves and the University of Stellenbosch. And I have, of course, some students who are there, PhD and master's students in Glasgow. And then mid-January, back to the grindstone, and hopefully by that stage I will have finished a number of articles and chapters that I've been working on. I also have 2 books I'm working on, a book on public theology in South Africa and Brazil with my friend Professor Rudolf von Sinner from Curitiba, who I'll be seeing, and then also a text of my own, which is a reworking of my first PhD on African relational ontology and identity, and that's under contract to be finished by the end of July. So keep that in mind. So yeah, a lot of exciting things coming up. I've been working hard. I hope I'm well before I travel. I feel quite good at the moment, but yeah, this flu seems to bounce back. But I hope I'll be well when I travel, and I'm looking forward to all of the friends and colleagues that I'll meet along the way. And yeah, if you follow on YouTube or on Twitter or Instagram at Digital Dion, or on YouTube Dion Forster, or my Facebook page Dion A Forster, you'll be able to keep up with all of that. And I'd love to hear how you're doing. I know our 4th term, our final term, started for our students today at Stellenbosch. I was thinking of all of them and of all of my colleagues there, and I'd love to hear how you're doing and what you're working on. So thanks for watching. Keep me and my family in thoughts and prayers. I hope to see Megan and Courtney and Liam, if they can get visas. I hope to see them in the UK over Christmas. Megan's brother lives in London with his wife, and so I hope to be able to visit them over Christmas in the UK. So thanks for watching, and I'd love to hear from you. Drop a note in the comments, and thanks for watching.